Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. We are in the thick of the 2020 Olympic Games, bringing you the full coverage, the top Olympians to give us their in-depth analysis on what they're seeing from the sidelines, from their couches. And today we are talking to Olympic champion, breaststroke legend, and YouTube extraordinaire, Cody Miller.
Man, you have gotten really good at these intros. You're making me sound way cooler than I feel right now. I feel like a guy just trying to juggle kids, but that makes me feel really good. Thanks.
Juggling kid stuff. You're getting ready for ISL, and but we're not talking about any of that today. We're talking about these Olympic Games because they have delivered. We have to start with this 200 breast last night. The women's 200 breast might have been the best individual race we've seen at the Games so far. Take me through that race for you. What were you thinking watching that?
I think the top two races of the meet, from a spectator standpoint, was the men's 800 meter free. That was insane. His last 50, that was wild. Yeah, congrats to him. That was huge. But the women's two, like, I barely slept last night. So for those listening, we're recording this the next morning. And I've had a hard time sleeping this week anyway. But like last night, I was so riled up that, there's a few things. Like I look at, like, I obviously I train with Lilly and Annie. They're like two of my closest friends. They're like family to me, and they swim the race so differently. And Lilly has been noticeably off, and her stroke's been a little off, and she's been struggling. And I mean, she fine-tuned her stroke. Like, you could tell the first 100 meters of her race, she was out 106. She was out fast, way ahead of world record pace. But it's not just that she was out quick, it's how she swam. I mean, you could see in the first third of her out sweep of her pole was a lot smoother, and she was gaining momentum as she was getting into that catch position instead of kind of churning butter and kind of making that typical breaststroke mistake of just spinning. All breaststrokers, even the best ones in the world, kind of fall into that trap of they stop holding water and you sink a little bit, and it happens to the best of us. It happened to Lilly. And so for her to get out and come back off and go that lifetime best time break 220. And I'll tell you what, the last 5 meters, I mean, Annie was in fourth or fifth until like a few inches to go and just got the touch. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack watching her finish the race. And obviously, I think you say, is her name pronounced Tatjana? Because there's a J in her name.
I have to ask.
I'm gonna go with that. I feel horrible for anyone from South Africa that's listening. Hopefully that's right, but I think you say her name Tatjana. But her swim, incredible. I mean, that was world record, amazing. I mean, just that race alone, we could talk the whole podcast about just that 200 breast. But I mean, I was blown away. It was exciting. It was fun, obviously for me because I'm super close to two of those girls. But that race delivered, and that was one of the few races where I think we've seen the effects of having finals and prelims a bit, because we've seen a lot. I think we'll see you guys will do the analytics after the games are over, I'm sure. But from the outside looking in right now, it looks like we've seen a lot more faster times in prelims and in semis compared to the finals. But that women's 200 breaststroke was one of the fewer events where pretty much across the board, the whole field was faster. I mean, the top 5 girls were 221 low, was way faster than what happened in semis. So it was exciting, man. I'm like just jacked thinking about it, man.
Yeah, no, we can keep talking about it because I think it's worth it. I feel like Lilly and Tatjana kind of dragged that whole field with them, right? I mean, they were just out so well. And like you said, it wasn't just like they were flying and dying. Like, they really thought out their races, but went for it and were aggressive on that front end. One thing I just was staggering, Tatjana, the number 1 time in like the world record in finals, the number 3 time like performance ever in prelims, number 4 time in semis.
She's been on fire.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, She looked really good.
And you can see where she made the changes. This is like the hardcore breaststroke nerd to me, but you can see it on the third and the fourth 50 where she made those gear changes. The way she kind of lifts her head and chest together, it's unique. Like it looks like she's popping up, right? It's like, it looks like this. It's a very unique stroke, but her hips stay high, and you can tell when she starts to lengthen out that stroke and then shorten up her elbow. Her elbows get a little bit deeper, and she starts to pull a little bit more water, and she ramps up a little bit. She's not quite like Annie. They're just so different, but you can tell like 30 meters out in the final 50 of the final, she geared it up more than she had done before in the prelim and the semifinal. And that's what ultimately made the difference, was that last 30 meters. Because I mean, we kind of knew she was going to catch Annie, or she was going to catch Lilly, who was obviously out in front. And although Lilly faded, she didn't really die. She still came home in like 7 low, and she was still actually holding water towards the end of the race. But Tatjana just accelerated that last 30 meters. I mean, she took like 3 strokes to kind of set up that final gear, and she hadn't found that final gear until really that final race. And it made, I mean, dude, world record. Like it was just, I watched it happening. I was like, this is it. Like it's happening. You know, it was so incredible.
Thank you for providing this context, because us lay people don't see these small things that make the difference. But I mean, yeah, such a great race to see. So coming into the final, I don't know if you had talked to Lilly, but did you see this swim coming for her? Obviously, I think you guys knew she had it in her, but having the meet she'd had so far, being in lane 2, I think.
Yes.
You know, did you think she was going to pop something like that?
Well, obviously we knew that Tatjana, I hope I'm saying her name right. I feel so bad. I'm not positive, but was going to be good. Like we knew she was the clear-cut favorite, and it was going to take a lot, because I think Lily's best time before that was like I don't even know if she'd ever been 220.
Yeah.
Might have been a 221. And so I knew, I had talked to her quite a bit, and I knew she was going to take it out. Like I knew she, in Lilly King fashion, was going to put it on the line, but I'll be honest with you, I did not know she had that in her right now. I mean, I always knew she was capable of going 220. She's just that good. But even Lilly, who I consider to be one of the GOATs, I mean, she was rattled, man. She had a poor performance, and we're not going to, pity her too much. She won an Olympic bronze medal. Like she's doing okay. You know what I mean? She still won a medal. But she was off by quite a bit, and you could see it. And she was, I talked to her a bit, and she was obviously a little bit upset with how it went. But at the same time, she's older now, she's more mature, and she fully recognizes how awesome it was for Lydia to win that race, because that was her 5 years ago. She was this young up-and-comer, never been to a major international swim before, the first Olympics, all that. I mean, she's been in that position before, so she understands it, she gets it. And at the end of the day, Lydia just had the better swim. And she flat out said, she was like, I wasn't at my best, and Lydia beat me, and I'm happy that I won a medal, And so I think she had the right mindset. But I mean, to answer the honest truth, I did not know that was going to happen. I knew she was going to send it. As we like to say, send it. I didn't know she was going to be able to go out 106 mid the right way. She went out 106 smooth, right? Like she was much longer. She carried water. She was high in the water, but she wasn't forcing it, right? There was no force. She typically has a much higher RPM, much more. I mean, she takes more strokes than everybody else across the field, but you could see she kind of held that long glide just a little bit more out in front. And I mean, that made the difference, because she was able to hang on and win that silver medal. But I was just as shocked, just as excited and shocked, and all the emotions, man, all of it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like after her 100 performance, which again, bronze medal, kudos, but obviously not what she wanted, off her best time. But after that performance, having a swim like that, it's who cares what medal you get? Like, dude, being able to put together such a masterful race for her. And then you had Annie, who at the 100 was like, I was like, okay, I know she can come home, but this is a lot of ground.
Close. Yeah, she was cutting it way too close. I thought like before the race started that Annie was going to be closer to the field at the 100 mark. Mm-hmm. And that was also me not expecting Lily to be able to go out in 106. So I knew, like I said, knew she was going to send it. And I mean, both South African girls were out quick too. And I mean, Annie borderline negative splits her race. Like she is such a back half pony. It's kind of crazy. But I mean, her last like 10 meters, she just surged and barely got, I mean, just, she got the touch, right? She had the magic fingers at the right time when it counted. And that was extremely exciting, especially after, I mean, I was basically weeping in that pre-roll, you know, before the race started, when they were showing the relationship between Annie and Lilly and kind of what they've been through together and how their friendship has blossomed, and how Lilly was there for Annie when her dad passed away just a couple months ago. And for them to ultimately stand on the podium together, it's one of my favorite Olympic moments of all time. Like I mean, pretty much crying just like the whole time. One of the reasons I was too jacked up to fall asleep last night. But I thought she was definitely a favorite to win a medal. But I mean, anybody, I hate this. Anyone who armchair quarterbacked too hard is like, oh, I knew she was going to do great. I knew she was going to win. Like, you just don't. Even though a lot of the races have shaped up about the way we might have expected, and some not, you don't know. Like, when the chips are down and the lights are on and everyone is standing on the blocks, you don't know. Because, you know, one of my, not to go off on a tangent here, but one of my favorite Olympic moments so far was Caleb winning the 100 free, and just the joy and relief and satisfaction, like all of the emotions swirled up into this one moment where he just basically starts crying. Because, I mean, for years, people have saying, oh, Caleb's going to win. No way Caleb loses. No way Caleb loses. He's the best sprinter on the planet. He's the best freestyler on the planet. And guess what? There's a lot of other really good guys, and Kyle Chalmers was coming home. And so I don't care what anybody says, you did not know he was going to win that race. And especially the last 15 meters when Chalmers was charging, you did not know, but it was exciting. And I love that. So I don't want to be that guy that's like, that's why we watch. That's why we have the race. That's why it's fun.
That's why we have the race. And we've had some races where we thought we knew and we didn't. And like, talk about a race delivering in that men's 100 freestyle. It hurts me just a tiny bit that Chalmers was 2 lanes over from Caleb, or maybe just 1 lane over, but you know, they weren't neck and neck.
That might have made the difference.
And it might have made the difference. Caleb might have given Kyle a little extra wave to ride on going out, and that might have made the difference. Who knows? But women's 800 free relay was the same thing. We thought Australia was untouchable. And you swim the race, and a couple things go a little differently than you think, and bada bing, bada boom, they end up bronze. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, right when you said the 800, the first thing that popped in my mind was the women's mile. I mean, obviously, we expected Katie to win. She was definitely the favorite, but seeing her win that race was so satisfying. Because she was having a rocky meet so far. You know, she wins a silver medal in the 400 freestyle. And I say wins because she won in a contested, amazing race where that Aussie just had the swim of her life and crushed it. And Katie had, I think it was her second fastest time ever. She had a great swim. She just got beat, you know, and then she misses the podium in the 200 freestyle. And that, I mean, you've got the greatest athletes in the world are able to kind of put that past and just look forward. And I don't think it has ever been harder for her than in that moment, and for her to go out and like win the mile. And then obviously seeing Erica Sullivan win the silver medal, a girl from my club team. I just, I don't know if I've ever told anybody this, but I was Erica Sullivan's first coach ever. I was her stroke school coach when I was in high school. I was like 16 or 17 years old, and I ran the Sandpiper's stroke school group. I don't remember how old she was. She was young. She was like 7 or 8 years old. We were doing 25s, just teach her to just do the laps. And so I've like been jokingly texting some of my friends. I'm like, you're welcome, America. I coached a girl to another. I'm just kidding. Ron gets all the credit. That was amazing. So seeing her win that silver medal was pretty cool, because I know probably better than anybody else just what that program goes through, like how hard they grind. And was it you who did the podcast with Ron recently? Yeah. Okay. I listened to that. That was awesome, by the way. And just hearing him talk about the way he prepared those girls, doing the mile at the end of that practicing camp. I mean, he just does things that other people are either scared to do or aren't willing to do. And it worked. I was so psyched to see those girls win. So yeah.
That club team obviously has been on a roll. They have 4 Olympians just this time, right? And talking to him in that podcast, I'm not someone, from a coaching perspective, I'm not someone who's like, who likes a lot of yards or a lot of distance. After that podcast, I'm like, put me in. I'm training for the mile. Like, because it's so, everything he does is so thought out and so methodical. And it's not just like, he's like, well, we're doing 3100s today because we're going to get tougher. He's like,
Yes.
no, we're doing 3100s today because there's a reason we do this. And because this is the zone we need to hit. And this is what we're trying to go for. And this is how it's going to make us better in the race at the end.
Yeah. He's not one of the few, but he's probably one of the best coaches that can point to something that, to someone who doesn't know anything about distance training, would think, why would you do this? This is just absurd. But he can tell you why you're doing it. And more importantly, he can convince the athlete why they need to do it and what they need to do. And he did that with me. I mean, he said on the podcast, like in high school, he had me, we found out that right about 6,500 a week. And that's where I was capped. Like anything more than that, and my stroke started to fall apart and I couldn't finish the week. And it's like, the perception that everyone on Sandpipers has done egregious amounts of yards is not 100% true. A lot of them do because they can, but it's not like he's giving that to people who aren't going to benefit from it. And I think that that's like a message that sometimes gets lost in just hearing these ridiculous sets that some of these swimmers do. Anyway, very, very exciting. And I'm super happy. Like Blake Peroni was in the stands and he sent me a video of Ron like swinging his arms during Erica's mile. And that was just, I saved that. It was like my favorite thing ever. I feel like a proud big brother right now for a lot of reasons, man. It's so cool. Like this week is so cool,
This week has been cool. I think, especially heading into the meet, just with Team USA being really young and a lot of people being like, okay, what's going to happen? How are we going to look? And then for so many to get on that podium and to have great swims and honestly, to do what Team USA normally does, which is perform on that stage. It's been really cool to see a lot of these younger swimmers or less experienced swimmers step up though.
Yeah, I was texting with my buddy Rob, and he does a lot of analytics. Like he's like a hardcore swim nerd. He's all over SwimSwam, and he's like, the Team USA is gonna win close to, if not equal to, the number of medals that we won in 2016. Like we're on track to do extremely well, and I think on paper, coming out of trials, looking at it, it didn't look that way, right? There was a lot of doubt, and for them to perform this well, it's been like just unreal exciting and unreal fun to watch, especially with, like you said, such a young team.
Yeah. So I have to ask you about the men's 100 breast.
Oh yeah.
You have a medal in. First of all, just Adam Peaty. We saw him do it again.
He's the GOAT. What do you think? Well, I think that, I think similar to what we saw in Caleb's eyes immediately after he finished, you get a slight sense of just how hard it is to stay on top.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard. It's very, very rare for someone to repeat a gold medal, regardless of whether you're the world record holder, this or that. I mean, it's just rare. It does not happen very often. And even when he went that 57.3, you could see that slight sense of relief, in addition to just the pure joy and all the awesomeness that was kind of happening around him. But it's just stellar. I mean, he owns like the top 20 times in the world. And for him to throw down, another just ridiculous time, to stay that close, there's no other way to put it. Like, it's amazing. And the field was really exciting to watch. That's one event that shaped up about the way that I thought it would in terms of the times that it took to medal. I thought 58.2 was gonna medal, and it ended up taking like a 58.1. I think was the Italian one, one bronze. Yeah. I mean, just looking at it, we had like 4 or 5 guys that were 58 lows. So that kind of shaped up the way we kind of thought it would be. We weren't positive, but obviously Arno was like the favorite to win the silver, being the only other guy to go 57. I love his stroke. He's going to be just a disgusting short course. I mean, he already is, but, I would have loved to see Michael Andrew kind of get his hand on the wall, but, it wasn't his time in that moment. And that's okay. He's, as we're recording this, he's got more races to swim, and, I think he can definitely bounce back. But, that was, that's one of my events. Like, that's one of my favorite events. And it was It was very, very exciting to watch. Especially seeing how many guys take it out 27 low, 27.3 or faster. We've never seen a time, and I mean, breaststroke keeps getting faster, obviously, because the force of Adam Peaty. Anytime someone breaks a barrier, more people are like, maybe I could do that too, but it's just the way that people are doing it. Like when I look at other breaststrokers that swim similar to me, like I look at a guy like Andrew Wilson who comes home better. Like he comes home 31 low, but he's not out quick enough. He's not out quick enough to put himself in the race. A guy like Michael Andrews shoots himself when he's at his best, goes out 7 low. But there were a bunch of guys in that field that were out quick. I mean, yes, Petey was out first, but it wasn't by a whole lot. Like it was a little too close for comfort from the jump. And I actually thought leading into that race that, I was talking to some of my friends. They're like, hey, what do you think's going to happen? Like, is Petey going to dominate by a full second? And he ended up winning by 0.7 of a second. So he did dominate really the last 30 meters of the race. That's where he just kind of surged. But before that race happened, looking at it, Arno had been 57.8. He'd already gone 58.0 in, I think, prelims. And Petey had been like 7 mid and then 7 a little bit higher than that. So I was like, okay, if Petey's off and he's 7 high or 7 mid and Arno is on and he goes at best time, there's a chance. There's a chance that he gets dethroned. Maybe a small chance, but it was possible. And that's another thing that I don't think people realize, because now you look at the results, you're like, oh my God, Petey dominated. He's awesome. But that just goes to show like how good Petey really is, because there was more pressure on him in that moment than probably ever before. And there was more of a chance for him to lose that race than ever before. Maybe a small chance, but it's there, like that. We're going to see that guy keep getting faster. Like he's good. So that's my take.
Yeah, totally. And we've seen a lot of dominant athletes look touchable at this meet, whether they have maintained their dominance or not. But it's like Adam Peaty, Katie Ledecky, the Australian women in the 4x2, Lilly King. It's like these athletes who've been undefeated for years and years, who've been at the top of their game, and just like no one can beat them. And then at this Olympics, for whatever reason, it's like, oh wow, like people are rising, people are getting up there. We're seeing the competition just ascend, and it's fun. As a fan, it's fun to watch.
Dude, it's so exciting, because as much as I want these people, like as much as I wanted Lilly to win the 100 breaststroke, because she's like my sister, I also love seeing Lydia win that gold medal and seeing the reaction to the crowd in her hometown in Alaska just erupting. Like, how could you not cherish that? And there is a part, and that's like when I say Lilly, she's not the same person she was at the last Olympics. She's gone through so many experiences and matured and grown up. I mean, you see the way those girls kind of embrace each other and hug at the end of that 200 breaststroke, like that. We never saw that years and years ago. And unless you're legitimately Michael Phelps, it's very rare that you go out on top 100% of the time. I mean, even Phelps at the end of his career and in his latter half was beat. And part of the hero's journey is dealing with defeat and dealing with the inevitability of losing and no longer being able to maintain that dominance. And for me, now that I've kind of gotten older and I've been beat and in the latter half of my career, I look at that and it's like, okay, how people respond to those situations, how people respond to getting beat, how people respond to not feeling good, how people respond to having a crappy race. That to me is almost more interesting and intriguing and sucks me in, more so than just watching Ledecky just lap people over and over again, like being able to see, I know I keep talking about Lilly, but being able to see Lilly turn it around and go a lifetime best time by almost 2 seconds in the final of the 2 breasts after getting knocked down. Like those are the things that I get super jazzed up about, because those moments I think are more special because it means something. That's my take.
Agreed. Yeah. Dude, the hero's journey. I love that you brought that in, because I love that we get to have those narratives in our sport. And it, like you said, it gives it meaning. It makes it more relatable because it's not just, oh, I beat everyone by miles and miles. It's like, oh no, they actually, you get an insight into, like you said, how hard it is to actually be at the top. And those downs kind of make it more relatable and give the audience a little more to work with and be like, oh, right, they are a human being. they can have downs too.
Yeah, I just think it's way more interesting to look at someone who is doing it again, someone like watching people who are a second time Olympian, watching people who have done it before, how they perform and how they respond to adversity and how they deal with situations is far more interesting, because it's easier when you're younger and when you're coming up. Everybody will tell you that it's easier when you haven't stood on that podium. It's so much easier when you, yeah, I don't want to go off on a tangent here. So I'll just stop right there and just say it just is. And it's been fun to watch, man.
I was just talking about this with Lenny Kraselberg a little earlier today, but I think it's so funny that the Olympics, it's just a swim meet. There's a lot more hype and a lot more media, and and people remember when you win, but it's just a swim meet, and it's just about who's on that day, right? And you can go a world best time, you can break a world record, you could swim this time or this performance that stands out in history. People won't remember it. People remember if you win a gold medal. I think that's such a funny juxtaposition of like, is that really measuring athletic performance, or I don't want to say worth, because I don't want to tie worth to like, athletics, but is that really the best measurement we have of like, I won this day versus I went this time that's historically great?
I mean, that's the ultimate debate, right? Because in my opinion, Michael Andrew is one of the greatest swimmers who's ever lived, because he is on and wins all the time. And as of this recording right now, he hasn't won a medal yet. I think he still can. I think he probably will. But when you look at the I look at swimmers' careers over the body of work and the ups and the downs, and not just, like you said, not just that one day, right? That one day that happens to have more hype and more media attention. And that's the interesting debate, right? Everyone has a different opinion on it. Literally everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Well, Cody, I appreciate you taking the time. It's always great sitting down to chat with you. We've got 2 days. We've got 2 more final sessions. What are you seeing, especially in these medley and mixed medley relays?
I can't speculate on the mix because there's
thing could happen.
Yeah, that's the, like, I go back and forth on how I feel about the mixed relays, because on one hand, they're very cool. It's exciting. It's new. It's different. But even people like me that are like as invested in the sport as you could probably be are like, do I have a spreadsheet in front of me? No, I don't know. Also, I've like been talking to a lot of people, and I know stuff that I can't say. So I cannot comment. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. I do want your take on the medley relays though. Men's and women's, we've got challengers, right?
Yes.
Australia for the women's side, Britain for the men's side. What do you think has to go right for US to take gold, which I think they have very legitimate shots in both.
Yes.
Again, they have pressure.
So I think that the biggest factors, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a breaststroker, I've like been thinking a lot about this, but I think both on the men's side and the women's side, the biggest factor is going to be the breaststroke split. Because when you look at it on paper, some of our biggest challengers have got legs that are going to just trump us. I mean, obviously we've got Caleb on the butterfly leg of the men's. So that's one. So like you kind of counteract Adam Peaty, but by how much is the question?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to that question is, well, what does our breaststroker throw down? What does Michael Andrews split? And we're going to we're going to see what that dude is made of. You know, we're going to see if he's got it in him. I think he does. I fully believe he's got it in him, but I think that that's the key. If we have a good split, if we have a 58 low, then we're okay. If not, we're in a little bit of trouble. That's just from the outside looking. There's a few other things to kind of nitpick, but I think that's the biggest factor. And the same with on the women's side, because even though Lydia won the 100 breaststroke individually, there are other legs that will be faster than us. And so we need a difference maker. And based on how Lydia has been swimming her races, I think from a technical perspective, she has the most room for growth in terms of how much faster she can be on this relay compared to her individual swim. I think that she can keep getting faster. I think she will be faster. The question is how much, right? And that's what's going to be exciting to see. But just technically speaking, how she swam the race, where she made her moves, how she built little things, she's got room for improvement. And that's a good thing because she already won. So now it's like, can you be the difference maker that gives us the edge that can give the win and the gold medal? Maybe. I hope. Fingers crossed, guys.
We hope. Yeah. Cody, it's always great talking to you. I really appreciate you taking the time. Any parting thoughts before we sign off?
You know, I have avoided social media so much the past 6 months, just staying off it just for my own mental health sake, just to avoid what people say about me and stuff. But I just think that, there's a lot of mud throwing going on, and there's a lot of positivity too. I don't just want to focus on that, but there's a lot of slinging mud at athletes for maybe not performing the way you want them to. But I just want to just send the message that, hey, all these people are human and they're all doing their best at all times. And you just need to realize that you're not in their shoes. Unless you have been there before and you've stood behind those blocks and you've been in their position, the odds are you do not know what they're going through. You don't know what they're experiencing. And they're all trying their best. And I think that that's my parting message to everybody is just accept that, the spirit of the Olympics is just, we're all doing our best and fingers crossed. And when the chips are down, we're going to see where the dice lay. And then we can celebrate it. We can talk about it, but we need to be kind about it. That's my opinion. So just be nice. Everybody just be nice.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.